So, what is inflation and why is it rising around the world, especially in Kenya, my hometown?
Federal Reserve is raising the
Fed
interest
is set
rate
to raise interest rates.
Highest inflation in 40 years.
Now, Kenya's inflation crisis is likely to escalate to levels last witnessed during the global recession back in 2008.
In the next few minutes, I'll explain this and you'll fully understand it. It's pretty simple. Cool? Let's get into it. But first, this video is proudly brought to you by Paperstone. Inflation is the rate at which the value of a currency is falling and consequently the general level of prices for goods and services is rising. Did you get that? I don't think so. Let me elaborate. Every country has a central bank who are in charge of the money supply. The United States call them Feds for Federal Reserve. In my hometown, we call them CBK, the Central Bank of Kenya. These are very powerful entities because they wield the power to increase and reduce the money supply of the economy. Mayor Rothschild once said, "Give me the control of a nation's money supply, and I care not who makes its laws." Well, now you know. In order for the economy to run, we need cash, loads and loads of cash. This is where the central banks step in. They create money out of thin air, and one way to get this money into the economy is to send it directly to the people through stimulus checks like what we saw the Feds doing when the COVID-19 hit in 2020. But this won't always be the case. The other common ways to lend this new money to banks at a low interest rate, say 1%, and the banks will inject it into the economy through loans at a higher interest rate, let's say 5%. Now different people will come rushing to take this new money in order to start and run their businesses. This money will be paid to workers or employees in the form of wages. The people will now have money and they'll go spend it on rent, food, clothing, transport, education, jewelry, cars, vacation, private jets, yachts, everything and anything they can get their hands on. And that, my friend, is how money is created and enters into the economy. This is necessary in order for the economy to flourish, and is greatly seen through the stock market while it's rising. However, this can also have a negative effect to the economy. How, you ask? When the central bank prints money faster than the productivity growth of an economy, they end up creating a scenario where there's now more money chasing the same amount of goods and services, causing the prices of those same goods and services to rise. For example, let's say there's a country called FinHub, and in this country, the central bank prints $1 million each month. And every month, the country produces 10 cars, which are sold for $100,000 each. If the printing of money and the production of cars remain constant, the prices are going to remain steady. But this is not always the case. Since money is created out of thin air, it makes it easy to scale up, and therefore, the central bank decides the next month to print $2 million instead. On the other hand, it is not easy to scale up the amount of cars, and therefore, on the next month, the production of cars remain constant at 10. And more money being printed means more money in the economy. People are getting richer and they are willing to spend more on cars. Due to higher competition and limited number of cars, the car producer decides to increase the prices of the cars by 50% from $100,000 to $150,000. And since the cars are in demand, the people won't really mind buying at these prices. This, my fellow Finhabians, is called inflation, where the purchasing power of an economy's currency is decreasing and consequently the prices of goods and services is rising. This is the reason why bread and milk is much more expensive now than they were when we were kids. In a separate video, I'll explain to you how this is the greatest robbery of all time that has been going on for more than 100 years. More on that later. Now, in order for the central bank to control and ensure that prices of an economy's goods and services don't rise too quick, they step in and increase the interest rate in which they are lending to the banks from 1% to 2%. Since the banks are now obliged to pay a higher interest rate to the central bank, they end up giving out loans at a higher interest rates from 5% to 10%. This in turn makes it harder for you and I, fellow citizens of FinHub, to pay back the loans, and therefore discourages us from taking the loans in the first place. If fewer loans are being taken, that means there's less money entering into the economy and thus less spending, eventually causing the prices of goods and services to reduce. As a consequence, we see the stock market and other asset prices dropping in price as well, such as the cryptocurrency market. Yup, that's why. Now you know. In conclusion, rising and falling of both interest rates and inflation is not a bad thing. They all help the economy in different types of ways. However, if they go too far too fast, they can tip economies into a recession. And that's kind of what we're witnessing right now globally.
Where do you peg the probability of a recession?
Right now, it's let's say by year end, I'd say about 50-50. It's pretty close.
Well, I think a recession is inevitable at some point. As to whether there is a recession in the near term, I think that is more likely than not. It certainly isn't. It's not a certainty, but it appears more likely than not. And what do you think?
You may be asking yourself, how and where does oil come in? Good question. I see you're following attentively. That, my fellow Finhabian, I'll answer in the next video. I will try to pay more attention to the Kenyan oil prices and explain to you why they are rising. So make sure to like and subscribe and turn your notification on in order not to miss out. As I sign out, remember, stay woke, stay financially literate. Thank you very much for watching Financial Hub's content on YouTube. For more forex analysis, financial education, podcasts, and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.